It's the era of living to 100 now. I've got to enjoy my second life. Hey, you. Wash this and iron it for me. My husband said this with a laugh and threw his shirt, which he had been wearing until just a moment ago, at me. He rarely comes home for dinner, and when he does, it's not for anything good. What's this out of the blue? Did someone say something to you? I sighed and took the shirt. It's typical of my husband to treat me like a maid, but it's not fun to hear it said to my face. But there's no point in saying anything now, it won't change him, so I swallow my resentment. Reeking of alcohol, my husband sat down at the dining table. It was President Johnson at the company. We had a drinking party today, and he said that in a 100-year life, 50 is just the halfway point. So, that's what it's about. It was just something the company's president said. As he talked, my husband casually snatched some of the dinner I'd prepared for myself. Hey, maid. I'm still thirsty, bring me some booze. And some snacks. I was planning to keep it simple today since our daughter is working late. But it looks like my husband will eat everything in no time. Hey, don't eat that. I tried to stop him, but he ignored me. Reluctantly, I started preparing some snacks and additional dishes for myself. I'm Kate, a 42-year-old office worker. It's been over 15 years since I married my husband. Now, he doesn't even call me by my name, just refers to me as a maid. Seems like he wanted a woman to replace a maid rather than a wife he could love. We met when he hit on me in a bar. Back then, after a surgery for a uterine condition, I can't have children. I planned to live alone, just working, but then my husband approached me while I was out drinking with friends. His carefree brightness was comforting, and he said it didn't matter that I couldn't have kids. I was moved, thinking he loved me, but I never imagined he just wanted a maid and didn't care about having kids. Also, I had no idea he drank almost daily and had a grown stepdaughter. His daughter Amy, then 9 years old, was the result of his wild youth. He got someone pregnant at 18, married, and divorced in less than a year. The young couple treated their daughter like a burden and refused to take custody. She was raised by her grandparents. Despite her complicated circumstances, Amy was a very honest and good girl. When we first met, she asked me rapidly, "Are you going to be my mom? Will you stay with me forever? Will I have a brother or sister?" I'll never forget the seriousness in her eyes. In 4th grade, Amy understood her family situation was different and must have felt very lonely. She thought marrying me would bring her the happiness of a normal parent-child relationship. I'm sorry, honey. I love kids, but I can't have babies because of an illness. But I promise to take good care of you, Amy. Really? That's great. My very own mom. Amy smiled with relief, looking incredibly adorable. To my in-laws, my husband was their cherished only son, but they seemed to adore their granddaughter Amy even more. They disapproved of how my husband treated Amy, whom they adored so much. Initially, they were worried that I might be like my husband's ex-wife, potentially hurting Amy with complex feelings. But, as elderly people, they needed someone to care for their granddaughter. And in a way, our interests aligned. I had the issue of not being able to have children, and my dream of having a child could be fulfilled by making Amy my own. It didn't take long for Amy, who was starved for love, and me, who longed for a child, to become close like a real mother and daughter. My in-laws, who were initially worried, must have realized that I genuinely cared for Amy. We gradually built a trusting relationship. Even though I married under these circumstances, my husband soon stopped caring about our family. He used to hang out with friends, but as he got older and couldn't pick up young girls anymore, he became obsessed with strip clubs. Recently, a young girl has been smitten with me. He would leave the house excitedly. But it was obvious he was just infatuated with young women. I grew increasingly disillusioned with my husband, and my love for him faded. Still, I didn't divorce him for Amy's sake. Life with just the two of us, Amy and me, was sweet and happy. This made it possible to endure my husband, who came home drunk late at night, spewing nothing but abuse. Since he never participated in any of Amy's events, people probably thought we were a single-parent family. Time flew as I enjoyed watching Amy grow, and just the other day, she said, "Mom, there's someone I want you to meet." Amy was already 26. I knew she had a boyfriend and had heard bits and pieces about him, but the day for a formal introduction felt so significant. Congratulations. Amy, you've grown up so fast. The once anxious girl I first met had become someone who could show genuine happiness, and we were just like a real mother and daughter. Those were happy, enjoyable days. And then, I met Amy's boyfriend, Bob, a really nice young man. Bob is such a good guy, isn't he? You're lucky, Amy. When I praised him, Amy made a complicated face. He's nothing like Dad, right? Mom, you don't have to endure it for my sake anymore. Divorce Dad. I want you to be happy too. You're still young. Maybe you're right. In fact, Amy had long given up on my husband and had been urging me to divorce him. When we got married, since Amy was already grown, I didn't quit my job. I've been working as a full-time employee all this time and I have savings. Honestly, I'm ready to divorce at any time, I'm prepared. But I just couldn't make that final decision. While eating the snacks I made and sipping wine, my husband suddenly said, "Now that Amy's getting married, maybe it's time for us too, huh?" Wait, what do you mean a time for us? I mean, maybe it's time we get divorced. He's suggesting this right before Amy's wedding? I was shocked. But shouldn't both parents be present at Amy's wedding? Kate, you're so naive. You're not related by blood to Amy, right? You don't need to be at the wedding. I don't understand. You mean you'll go with her biological mother? No, I don't even know where she is or what she's doing. Then who will you go with? My new girlfriend. Excuse me? I couldn't believe what my husband was saying. My girlfriend, Olivia, the young and pretty one. Really? She's actually your girlfriend? Not just being nice for her job? For regular customers. But Olivia is definitely into me. She always says if only you weren't married. So? I'm planning to propose to her on her birthday next month. We've got over half of a 100-year life to enjoy. Amy would be happier to have a young, cute mother like Olivia rather than a plain woman like you. I want a beautiful woman by my side. So, you're no longer needed, let's get divorced. You're just a stranger to my daughter and have been nothing more than a maid. Thanks for your service. I couldn't believe this man's foolishness. I was more shocked by my husband's idiocy than by the shock of being given a divorce in a light-hearted manner. I can't believe you're taking her words seriously. And a wedding isn't a place to show off a pretty woman. What about the mother who raised the bride? It doesn't matter since you're not related by blood. You were just a maid replacement from the start. Don't even think about asking for alimony or property division. I don't have that kind of money. I know you've always treated me as a maid. I'm completely done with you. Let's divorce. It's time to cut ties with such a lowly man. I too need to start my second life. No more thinking it's too troublesome. Waking up to my husband's idiocy, I made up my mind. Fine, decided. I'm not a monster. You can stay until Olivia moves in, as long as you keep doing the housework. Understood. And just like that, we decided to get divorced. The next day, I went to see a divorce lawyer. That night, while my husband and I were discussing procedures, Amy came home from work. When I told her about the divorce, she looked confused. Unsure whether to be happy for me or pretend to be sad. What about my wedding? It'll be awkward with both of you there, so it's okay if just Mom comes, right? Amy casually said something harsh, but my husband, who assumed he should naturally attend, didn't realize it. Don't worry, Amy. I'll bring my young and cute wife. Amy frowned at my husband's slightly absurd statement. Huh? A wife other than Mom? Dad, were you cheating? I was too uninterested to notice. Amy was quite harsh with my husband. It's not cheating. Olivia is the real deal. She was just a maid. I never married her for love. That's awful. How can you not be ashamed to call Mom a maid? Enough. Why do you keep calling her Mom? We're getting divorced, and she'll be a stranger to you. Eh? For a moment, Amy was stunned, her face blank. Then her face turned bright red as she exclaimed in a fluster. Dad, don't you know? Or did you forget? What are you talking about? What don't I know? Mom legally adopted me. It was such a happy moment, and I remember it well. Mom and I aren't strangers. My husband seemed clueless about Amy's words. Adoption, what's that? I can't believe this. You've completely forgotten. When we got married, I also legally adopted Amy. Through adoption. Even without a blood relationship, we're legally recognized as parent and child. Even after my explanation, my husband didn't seem to understand. So what? That's automatically annulled when we divorce, right? No. Adoption doesn't automatically dissolve with divorce. Separate legal proceedings are required for that. And I have no intention of dissolving my parent-child relationship with Amy. Exactly, I have no intention of breaking my bond with Mom either. Huh? Stop joking, both of you. Invalidate that troublesome thing. Your fussing is pointless. It's determined by law. I had been prepared to take Amy and raise her if necessary. Amy knew that even if I divorced my husband, there was a way for her to stay with me, and that's why she encouraged the divorce for my happiness. I completed the divorce procedures, and the divorce was finalized, but I was still living in the house. After over 15 years, I had quite a bit of stuff, and it wasn't easy to sort through everything. I informed my parents and in-laws about the divorce, and both were very supportive. However, my in-laws insisted that I take a proper alimony and divide the assets. They even advised selling the house we were living in and turning it into cash. They were upset with their son's behavior towards their granddaughter and me. Then, the day after that. Hey, I've changed my mind. I'll remarry you. Excuse me? My husband blurted this out as soon as he returned home for dinner. Amy and I were taken aback. What about the young and pretty Olivia? I went to the club today, and she wasn't there. He replied briefly. Confused, Amy and I waited for him to explain. She quit the club, she's gone. He repeated, almost in the same words, but we both got the gist of it. It seemed like his belief that she was in love with him was just a figment of his overactive imagination. Amy burst into laughter first. Dad, you were completely off the mark. She laughed so hard she cried. Well, I see. So that's how it is. I couldn't help but smirk, struggling to find words. I don't know who Olivia is, but seeing my hubby looking so down in the dumps, I couldn't help but feel a bit perked up. A young stripper falling for a middle-aged man? You were never in the game to begin with. Amy's laughter seemed to infuriate my husband. Amy. How can you say such things to your father? Olivia was going to be your new mother. There's only one mom for me. And frankly, I don't need a father like you. Amy stood her ground, and I struggled to contain my laughter. What an ungrateful daughter. Kate, you've raised her all wrong. She's done nothing wrong. My husband's anger shifted towards me, but Amy was quick to protect me. I laughed bitterly. You never took part in parenting, so I can't take your words seriously. And I'm certainly not interested in remarrying someone who only sees me as a maid. Especially not now that you need me because things didn't work out with the girl. I declared my stance firmly, but he persisted. But you never complained before I brought up divorce. Weren't you satisfied? No. I had only complaints about you. I didn't leave because of Amy, and frankly, it was too much trouble. Initially, I stayed for Amy, who longed for a complete family. After she gave up on her father, I became numb to his emotional abuse. But now, I've woken up. I must break free from this toxic relationship. So, we'll just remarry for Amy's sake. Who will take care of me if you're gone? Unbelievable, Dad. Who would want to marry you after hearing that? Ignoring her, he tried to convince me. Amy is starting her own family now. There's no point in us remarrying if she's not around. What about being alone in your old age? Being married to me means you'll get a share of my inheritance. I couldn't help but laugh. Inheritance? You hardly have any savings, do you? I knew his finances well. He rarely contributed to the household and spent most of his money on leisure. My father and mother have some. There's also the house. Sure enough, he was banking on his parents' inheritance. But he was underestimating. Well, your parents are planning to leave their estate to Amy, not you. They're consulting a financial advisor about it. So, you might not get much. I was the one who recommended that advisor to them. I understood their feelings. That can't be. I hardly have any savings. My husband suddenly became weak. Kate, you still love me, don't you? You won't abandon me. My husband's pleading, almost pathetic tone was so absurd it was comical. He really is dumb. Why can't I dump someone who has already dumped me? How can I love someone who calls me a maid? Yes. Your mother-in-law told me to make sure you take full responsibility. I'm going to hire a lawyer and demand my share of the property and alimony. I have all the evidence of moral harassment, so I won't lose. You'll have to pay me with the money from the sale of the house. He fell silent after my declaration. Amy coldly added, if you're going to call Mom a maid, then you better pay her proper alimony as her salary and divide the property. Then disappear from our lives. My husband opened his mouth as if to say something, but then just hung his head in defeat. He had lived as he liked, and now faced rejection not only from me but also from his own parents and daughter. He had brought this upon himself. You said it's the era of living to 100 and time for a second life. Well, this is truly goodbye. Time for you to start yours. Following through with my plan, I sold the house we lived in, secured a good amount in property division, and received substantial alimony. I moved close to where my daughter lives but decided to live alone. She had offered to live together. But I didn't want to intrude on her new marriage, and I was looking forward to some peace on my own. My ex-husband ended up working somewhere on a construction site through his father's connections, and I have no idea where he is now. My daughter's wedding, which sparked this divorce, went on without him. I attended with my in-laws. When my daughter read a letter thanking me for raising her like her real mother, I was overwhelmed with tears of joy. I was relieved to have successfully seen her off into her new life. Now, I'm finally enjoying truly happy days, cherishing every moment of my newfound freedom.